Thank you very much for the kind introduction. Okay, so my name is Mishari, and this talk will be beyond metrics, using behavioral design to drive quality in software projects. This title was generated by an LLM, so it was a mouthful. First of all, let's try this. Are we enjoying the conference? Please scan the code and react. See, does this thing work? Is it working? Yes. There are reactions. Excellent, one came in. So, wonderful, a torrent. Excellent. So, I am a fractional CTO in addition to all the stuff that I do. And as Ito-san said earlier, that we need to promote ourselves, here I am. I'm a fractional CTO in addition to all the work that I do in open source. I have been in open source for 30 years as a youngster growing up in Thailand, in pre-broadband. Open source was the only way that I could access extremely high technology. And I owe a lot to open source. And that is why I would like to give back and have everyone understand what the power is for open source in order to build up skill, mindset, etc., etc. I've spoken on TEDx before. I'm also a farmer. So if you want to know what to do after retirement, I brought a farm. We grow palm, cacao, bees, cows. We have cows, yes. So if you want to talk about farming, you're welcome to. And currently my big assignment is that I'm on the Budget and Strategic Subcommittee for Thailand's National Broadcasting and Telecommunications Commission. And I am a homeschool dad. So that is my kid. My wife sent me that photo. He is 11 years old. And that is him again. Well, that's the other one. I have twins. So I go away for 4 days and that happens. So a story. Why am I interested in behavior, right? So I was once in charge of a team. And basically, it was an operations team, and we had issues getting compliance, right? One of the big problems I felt was that when people got off their chairs to go to the bathroom or whatever, they would not lock their screens. We had policies. I had instilled punishment. You will hit Windows L and leave, right? Everyone do that. Very few people did. So I came up with a game. I said, okay, new rules. If anyone walks away from the screen and the screen is unlocked, it is fair play. You can come and play a practical joke on that person. And the more creative the joke, the bigger your prize will be. 2 rules. 1, customer system is not affected. Second rule, no one goes to jail. Within 72 hours, our compliance rate went to 100%. Right? But that is the beauty of this kind of thinking. I spent weeks probably trying to get people to comply with this policy, and it didn't work. However, well, it's not working. The hide button's not working. Never mind. It didn't work, but as soon as I thought through this through a behavioral development framework, all of a sudden the compliance became easy and natural, which is the idea I want to put forward to you today. Sorry, just give me a second. So, I apologize. that's working too. Excellent. So, as Hattori-san said earlier, right? He mentioned a few things that are wrong, that are challenges in the open source community. So I have a similar list: outdated documentation, consistent code quality, attracting and retaining contributors, difficulty finding high quality code. And these things are a recurring theme. Hattori-san mentioned it. I found I created this list independently. And in fact, I am starting to think that one of the reasons for all of this is the gap there is between an organization with its command and control hierarchy versus the open source way of doing this, which is more creative, more collaborative, more artistic, right? And there is this tension between the command and control structure and the various ways that people use it for to gain their own for their own benefits. Let's face it, for their own benefits, and the collaborative, high trust nature that is generally open source and inner source, right? And these are also documented in the inner source patterns. That is why we have patterns, because it is a recurring theme, and we are trying to find various ways of solving this problem. I have contributed 2 drafts myself for the patterns, but it has not been very satisfying. So I'm also a huge believer in metrics, right? We try to measure everything. But also there's a bit of a problem because metrics are lagging indicator, right? They can measure actions after it has happened, but they don't inspire you to take forward action. So if you implement metrics and you frame it in the wrong way, we get a bunch of problems, right? First, it erodes intrinsic motivation. You're out there to game the numbers all the time, right? People game the metrics. So the first one is that you're no longer inspired from within. Everything has to come from the outside number, right? Second, people game the metrics, so they will do their best to improve the numbers. 3, it creates a rule-based bureaucracy. If the numbers is this, then we do that. If the numbers is that, we do this. And this lowers, I think, in the long term, possibly trust. If it's done in a way that doesn't take into account really human behavior. So with the password example that I said, right, compliance rate 100%. Didn't actually work because it did not come from within. It was, but then once it became intrinsic, it was all good. So this is what happens when you implement metrics wrong, right? Goodhart's law is when the metrics become the target, it ceases to become useful as a metric. And so this example, if you try to double our output, we just halve the balls, right? And that is the danger of this method. Also, obligatory XKCD. I'll give you 5 seconds. Okay, so what I want to propose, not so much solutions, since I don't have that, but I'm just sharing with you what I've learned up until today. So the framing that I want to change is from managing outputs to designing for motivations. And I will give you some information about what I have in order to start a conversation. Then perhaps you can take it further in your organizations. So tipping, who tips? Anyone tips? One person. Okay. So you don't tip here in Japan, right? It's a very strange concept. You pay the people more money, right? Ideally, it's for service rendered, etc., etc. But then it relies very much on the goodwill in most societies, right? You go there and they say, "Did I serve you well? Please tip me." So, which is why there's a tip box where you can put more money, which for me as an Indian is very strange because most of the time I'm trying to get a lower price, right? And then in the tip box, you need to put in more money. So I'm not for the concept of tipping at all, though I will do it politely. However, I discovered this, right? In this shop, they said free bonbon if the coin stays on lemon. So they had a lemon, it was in the water, and you put money in it, right? And to try to balance the money on the lemon. So they did not have a tip jar. They had a game where you balance money on the lemon. And if the money falls off, you get a free bonbon. Of course, you never get a free bonbon, right? But however, that was an extremely effective way to get people to tip. Again, it requires a masterful understanding of human motivation and behavioral science. So this is the kind of thing that I want to put forward, right? That oftentimes if people do not have the kind of behavior that you're expecting to, maybe the framing is wrong. Maybe you haven't actually thought about what is really motivating people to do things. Again, you tell people to go in and run on a treadmill for 30 minutes, right? Many people will feel extremely exhausted. They don't want to go. They don't want to get out of bed. I know I have been in that situation. But tell people that they're about to enter a race, right? And they will train and they will train and they will train day in and day out, day in and day out. Same physical action. In fact, the race will probably motivate them even more. But in one case, it feels tiring and exhausting. But in another case, they feel highly, highly motivated. So again, behavioral science and the subset of it, games, seem to be a very, very powerful tool in order to get people to do the right thing. And also, if you notice the other thing with things like races, right? People don't cheat, right? They don't arrive on a motorcycle in order to go to the finishing line faster, or they don't walk across the lawn. So again, there is something inherently anchored in the human psychology and games, which just allows us to, well, run with it. So now, in regards to InnerSource and open source, I have always found that there is a correlation between companies where organizations where the employees are sort of happy, and I think that the happiness also comes from the fact that they can be creative in their organization, and there's a trust for them to contribute across source code. So I find that it's linked, and I find that organizations that have an advanced level of happiness also has a workforce, team members who are more willing to contribute to InnerSource, to open source. And I just recently found this amazing product, which I wanted to share with everyone. It's called Happily. And so it's there to measure the happiness of your employees, as well as to get feedback so that you can increase it. I haven't had the chance to use it yet, but this looks very, very promising, as well as similar platforms, right? So let's do an experiment. So remember just now that I had asked to... So let's see your reaction. Let's see. I see a no. As many times as you want, let's have it flooded in. Maybe around 50-50, perhaps. Okay, thank you. So so with Happily AI, the interesting thing is that this is a net promotion score, right? So it's the same, basically the same question, right? But then here, you know, for people with Happily.ai, they are extremely happy on that side. So what we have is another tool called the Octalysis, the 8 core drives of motivation, which is extremely, extremely interesting, right? There are other frameworks, but this one I found to be, this one is the one that I've known best. I'm not certified, so, but this is just for information purpose. So it breaks the motivation down into several factors, right? First of all is epic meaning, right? Which gives people a feeling part of something bigger, right? Copyright KDDI. Okay. Accomplishment, make progress. So that's an example from LinkedIn, the power bar, right? Empowerment, this is what most programmers have, the ability to be creative with their code. Ownership, protecting what's yours, Tamagotchi, Pokemon Go. That's what drives you when you own your Pokemon. Social influence, people sharing, and collecting reactions and likes. Urgent action, you know, last chance, limited time offer, these kind of things, a powerful drive. Unpredictability, not knowing what's next, right? Loss avoidance, so this is my Duolingo yesterday, where I was scared that I would lose my 434-day streak. So there's a couple of ways that we can apply this. Documentation deficit, there's a lack of documentation. Again, this is only a small part of the puzzle, but perhaps we can implement a document health progress bar that shows you how you're doing, and create a hashtag that can be celebrated. Engineering a culture of quality. So people say it works for me, it doesn't work for you, your problem. So maybe, one useful thing is to have a good CI/CD feedback loop, where when after a commit is made, then it goes through the cycle, and then there's a feedback with from the linting tools. So that's a feedback. And then also there's the code review, right? Instead of saying, that code is bad, do it again. You can do it as, if the code is good, you can give props. Right? Congratulations, well done. The code is excellent. There can be a type of social reward right there. So feeling contributor engagement, this is just an example, but having something more than just fixing ticket 1, 2, 3, right? There has to be a bit of a story behind it, like the InnerSource hero. That's great, but something else. Right, that's relevant to your organization. And if you want a really, really bad example, then scarcity. So there can be a timer that says if these issues are not blocked, then people get fired. Okay, it's a game. It's a very bad example, but to show you an example of how games can work, right? And but there's more to the Octalysis framework. We don't have time to go through all of it. There's a structure that goes through discovery, onboarding, scaffolding, and endgame to make sure that there's a progress. Right? People coming from the baby stage and go to the advanced stage. And then also there's a bunch of other things that is very interesting, the way that they think about left brain and right brain creativity and logic, as well as white hat, the things that are meaningful and intrinsic, as well as the black hat, which are the all the extrinsic factors. So it's a very interesting framework, which is why I recommend that people who are interested in this kind of thing have a look. Okay, so in conclusion, I would like you to invite everyone, if your processes are not working, maybe you should think about what is it that is motivating, that is driving people, right? And maybe we need to think about because in the past, people in open source programmers were all geeks, right? Geeks are special. We like mathematics, we like engineering, but then there are now a lot of people here who don't really like maths, they don't like engineering, they don't like collecting Pokemon. So what do we do with these people, right? So we maybe need to think about more about their motivation, the way that people come, the way that they contribute, the reasons that they do that. And I think that this will lead to a more fulfilling engineering culture and environment in all of our organizations. Okay, final but not least, if you're interested in open source, we are having an open source summit on the 9th to 10th March in 2026, Bangkok, Thailand. Flights are really cheap now on Google Flights. So please consider joining us and meet the community in Thailand and all over Southeast Asia.